Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Zach. Today I'm going to be talking about fuboTV. I covered this one before, but for this time here, this is going to be a wholesome video where you're going to be able to make your decision based on this one alone, but I do heavily recommend that you watch my previous ones to get a bit more of a bigger picture on this stock. Make sure to drop a like to this video to help the channel grow, subscribe, and leave notifications on. I split this video into due diligence and technical analysis. If you want to skip to technical analysis, you can go ahead. There's a link in the description and in the comment pinned. Let's jump right into it. fuboTV, live sports and TV without cable. And a big part of this one here is 8 live channels, 0 fillers. BN Sport Canada, Game, Fubo Sports Network, Paramount, and a bit more up there. They're available on iOS, Android, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, Samsung Smart TV, Apple TV, and Chromecast. The list goes on there. Now, we want to look a little bit into what is this one here. Is it a Netflix or not? Well, it's a little bit different than Netflix in that sense that it's more tailored for come for the sports, stay for the entertainment in a way. And in a way, what you're looking at is that, well, they are mainly a sports channel or sports service, and they have some of other entertainments on the side. So if we look quickly into the third quarter result highlights, their paid subscribers at the end of the period has increased from third quarter 2018 year on year, 2019 and 2020 by almost around 50% on average, 42% from 2018 to 2019 and 58% from 2019 to 2020. That is for the end period for the third quarter year on year. Now the next thing here is the average revenue per user. Now, from 2018 to 2019, that jumped 50%. From 2020 to 2019, 14%. Again, third quarter. And then if we look to contribution margin, you get to see that 613 BPS from 2018 to 2019, and 1,567 BPS from 2019 to 2020, and that is a good improvement. Now, some of the highlights was that the revenues were 61.2 million, which is a 47% increase year over year, and 71% excluding 2019 licensing revenue from FaceBank AG Business sold in July 2020. Paid subscribers at quarter end total to 455,000, an increase 58% over year, and the rest is basically already explained in the graphs above. Now, the next thing we're looking at here is their SEC filings. We have here, this is just a 10% ownership, Discovery Inc. So we got that, 13 Gs, a bit more in terms of passive investments. We'll cover that in a second in another tab. Now, 68,006,008 shares of common stock sold by selling shareholders. That is not a direct offering. That's more of a resale from a different stockholder. So we wouldn't worry about this one here. It closed, I believe, on December 30th, so that should be done in that sense. But I could be as well wrong. I mean, I saw December 30th. Oh, sorry, my bad. It's the certain agreement expiration for January 7th, 2021, not December 30th. Certain lockup agreements on December 30th, 2020 will not be eligible though. Now, the Form 8K that comes around here is basically regarding some of the some of the voting materials here. Nothing significant here that would basically tell me, oh, something is off, rather than grant incentive stock options for 2020. Some things regarding elections, fiscal year, etc., etc. Some kind of the normal stuff you see on a daily basis. Redemption agreement as well. So this is regarding them and an FBNK Finance SARL, where they basically they settle some of the warrants and cents, and in this point that they no longer have to abide by those warrants themselves. So in a way, you can say that in terms of liability, they close some of the liabilities down. And right here, you get to see basically a total consideration of $80, the waiver of the company's right under the call option agreement, pursuant to which the company had the right to acquire a minority stake in FaceBank AG. The parties agreed following the closing to reasonably cooperate to have the parties to the call options agreement execute and deliver an agreement terminating the call option agreement. Another 13G, which is an investment, and again, the incentive plan, as we did mention, is also mentioned in their 10Q. Now, coming up next is some of the events that they had, including the FUBO's annual shareholder meeting, FUBO's growth and ESG conference, some of the news they have. They were now available in the market on VIDAA Smart Operating System. They also added Premium Entertainment Network EPIX to programming lineup, participated in BMO growth, acquired Balto Sports as a first step into online sport wagering market. You get to see they're very active in terms of their expansions. That's just all in December, that last four news parts. So what is this VIDAA Smart Operating System news? So basically, FUBO is the first live sport TV streaming services and has officially launched on Hennessy Smart TVs with the VIDAA Smart Operating System. And if you do remember at the start here, I did say a bit and more, and that's what I was talking about. So Smart TVs were actually on Samsung. They also were on Android and Fire TV and Roku if you were to place them on and all that stuff. But now also on Hennessy Smart TVs using the VIDAA software. And that for me is something substantial. When you're on there for new TV owners and they want to play sports and they see that app, it makes it a lot easier to get there. So that is already covered. I don't need to explain that more. The next thing was about Premium Entertainment Network EPIX to program lineups that they've added back in the 11th of December. That basically includes popular film franchise, critically acclaimed original series such as The Godfather of Harlem, Pennyworth, NFL The Grind, and they do actually have a good amount of products in there on fuboTV. Now, I'm not going to go exactly and cover what they actually have. I did go that in my last video if you'd like to watch it and see basically a little bit of a sense on what they have. Now, before going on to reviews, just a quick thing, because this one was a SPAC, special acquisition transaction, where basically a reverse merged. Some of the things that we get to see is that the initial run-up happens letter of intent, and then basically on the date of merger, it starts falling a little. This one is a little bit delayed, but the graph resembles a little bit closer. And I'm going to explain that in my technical analysis a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of future for fuboTV. The question is when to invest and what's a good entry. That is the question. Now, some of the reviews for fuboTVs here, some of the likes that they have based on CNET is that there's solid selection of channels. There you go, I'm zooming in. Solid selection of channels with a sport bent. Fans of soccer will find plenty to love. Quick and easy navigation, especially on Roku. They don't like the lacks of CNN, TNT, TBS, and other Turner channels. YouTube TV is better overall for $5 more. Hulu Live is a better value for $5 less. That is some of their criticism. They gave it 7.7. Now, Clark here, this one was updated on December 29th. 5 things to know before you sign up for fuboTV. How much does it cost? It costs around $59.99 for the standard plan, but now basically the family bundle plan is around $64.99 per month. Now, next thing, what channels do you get with fuboTV? There's a lot of channels. Meanwhile, the service removed TNT, TBS, CNN, Cartoon Networks, and other channels in July 2020. They now have ABC, Disney Channel, EPSN, SEC Network, ACC Network, Fox, and more. Now, they do also have a bunch of things. Of course, Fox Sports, Hallmark channels, HGTV, although I don't recommend that you follow everything they do into their home. Some things are not good in there. They also have Newsmax if you're into that. Olympic channels, NFL, Nickelodeon, TLC. The list goes on here. Does fuboTV include cloud DVR? Now, some of the people here aren't familiar with cloud DVR, but they include around 250 hours of cloud DVR storage space. Basically, if you want to record some of your streams, for instance, if you're going out and you want to watch a sport TV that is streaming on their live, you have 250 hours of cloud to do so, and you can also upgrade to 1,000 hours in some seasons like World Cups or Olympics, etc. How do you stream on Fubo? Well, we already covered that. Xbox One, Smart TV, Hennessy TV, and everything on between from where we covered early. They can also have a family share very similar to Netflix, and some of the pros and cons, they have lots and lots of sport channels. Finally added in August 2020 for EPSN. Good mix of live news and entertainment networks. Up to 6 profiles per subscription. Some of the cons are Turner networks were removed, such as CNN, TBS, TNT in July 2020, and expensive add-ons for additional DVR storage and streams. that kind of good, in a good way, covers basically their view part as a customer. And if you're thinking about investing in it long term, why don't you start a trial? You know, give it a feel. See, well, is this something that I might use? Maybe you're not into sports as much, but if you were, do you find it easy to use? That is a really good way to start. Now, the next thing here is the price per sales. Now, the SP 500 average is somewhere around 3, and this one is at 1734. So you get to see it's compared to SP 500. You can say it's actually overpriced in that sense. Now, we don't have price per book yet, but we're gonna be able to get that later on as time progresses. Financials here, well, we have to look into the quarterly, especially in the last 2 quarters. In terms of total revenue, numbers in thousands, you have a good increase from quarter 2 to quarter 3. You get to see it's around 50% increase in total revenue, and in gross profits, they went from negative 18 million to negative 9.8 million. In terms of net income, things aren't looking that good, but again, a lot of people have come out and say, well, you know, this is because of the reverse merger that they done, and a lot of expenses are carried forward. You get to see one of the major expenses that they do have here in terms of just general expenses in general. It relies, well, I don't think it's even broken down here, but income for continuing operations, that is massively negative. Really mainly goes on towards just general expenses relating to selling and general administration and operating income itself. Now, in terms of balance sheet and how much cash they have, go to balance sheet quickly, quarterly here. We don't have a lot of information, but cash equivalent for 2020, we have around $39 million. Now, is that good? Well, we have to look a little bit into their total liabilities. Their total current liabilities is around $290 million. Things aren't looking that great, but there is a bit from the pipe investments, cash put aside, and, you know, things might balance out, though it's a really high risk. Now, you get to see that in terms of institutional buyers, not a lot of activities other than the 13Gs we saw earlier, but we still see more green than red. Well, no reds at all, but we still see green. In terms of insider purchases, we don't see a lot of activity here, or any in that case, but it looks like the most recent ones were heavily purchased by Texter John C. Now coming on towards the technical analysis point of view. So technical analysis point of view right here on my screen. If you do remember, I did show you the SPAC kind of page where it looks a lot like this one here, where you get to see a jump in there, accumulation, a massive jump, and a dip. And we get to see that quite often. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure you drop a subscribe down and turn notifications on. A lot of you amazing folks have been watching my videos, but haven't subscribed yet, so please do so. The next thing here is also we have a Discord, free chat rooms, free of pumpers. If you would like to join it, go ahead. It's in the description. It's free of charge. Now, coming on towards the technical analysis point of view. Here on the 1 day, some of the things we actually start noticing is that the MACD itself is going on towards negative side. Now, let's just zoom in a little bit closer here. Yep. It's coming on towards the negative side. And when we're saying the negative side here is that MACD histogram, when it starts crossing towards the negative side, that is where we start worrying, because that shows in a continuation to that negative reversal. It's not just a pullback. Now, the red line, the signal line, is above the MACD, and that is a negative trend. Momentum here is almost clinching towards the positive. You see, it's almost never been negative. Well, it hasn't been negative in a while, but it's currently sitting at 0.95. Now, you can't see it properly because it's kind of jammed up, but it is around 0.95 currently, 0.96. Once it goes negative, you literally have negative trend momentum. The negative momentum becomes strong. Currently, it's highly oversold, and the 80X shows in a pullback from where it was 65.17. Until I think it hits the 30, it's not going to stabilize. It's starting to show a really strong negative trend. Moving averages are bullish in general. 10 SMA is above 30 MA. It's above 50 SMA. As soon as it crosses the 25.01, it goes bearish on the 50 SMA, the purple line here. Now, there's something called the trading action zone, where reversals are likely. And it was between the 42.19, the green line, and 32.3, the red line. And you can get to see it actually drop below there. So positive reversals are highly unlikely, unless it can actually clinch above the 32.30. And time will tell on that. Now, 2-hour perspective here, what we get to see is that 30 EMA is above the 10 SMA bearish, it's below the 50 SMA. There's a very strong trend on the red line, on the 80X, maybe Monday we might get a reversal based on the 2-hour perspective. It's highly oversold. Momentum is negative, so you have a negative momentum on this one, which is not good. Definitely MACD looks rubbish in that sense. Now, on a moving average band point, volumes have been increasing in the dumping direction, which is scary. Now, for the sake of the argument, the moving average band says this one is probably going to trade between 38.60 in the top, 35.09 in the middle, and 31.58 in the bottom. Now, on a stochastic fast and a stochastic slow, what we get to see here is that they're both heading in the negative direction. They're both heading down. And we don't get to see something like here, where it's stabilizing or going a little bit horizontal. It's just nosediving. And what does that say? It says basically there is a little bit more red to go, more likely than green. Now, of course, we're not saying that, you know, if news comes out, it's still going to go red. You know, we might have some good news. This one pushes way back, but basically what this says is that this run was over-exaggerated a little, and it is going to drop down and then accumulate later on, but it hasn't accumulated that step yet. Okay. Next thing we're going on is Fibonacci retracements. So Fibonacci retracements shows one support, 2101 on here. Now, we're going to still go on towards the normal supports and resistances in a second, but significant resistances on the Fibonacci retracement is 2890, 3528, 4165, 50.73, and then 62.29. Now, what we're going to do here, we're going to do 1 month, and we're going to do 2 hours, and we're going to start drawing price line actions. So for the current price line actions, the current support sits at 27.80, and then below there, we're looking at 25.61. I missed the 25.97, and then we'll go a little bit behind there once we go to the bigger picture. But now resistances are more clear. 29.69 is another resistance there. Then we have the 32.59, and then we have 36.03, and then we have 38.62, and then we have 41.69, 48.84, 53.81, 57.53, and then 61.61. Now, a big thing about this one here is the pattern that it's showing on a 2-hour perspective. It's already playing through, but it's a head and shoulder. That's a head. These are 2 shoulders, and they're dropping down. So it's currently playing through. And a part of it is trying to figure out what's the significant support. What was the significant support level before? And we get to see the significant support level before was around the 25 mark. Below the 25 marks, things get a little bit ugly because we get to start seeing 24.66, 22.63, 21.08, and then down to 19.93, which is almost $20, and then 18.50, and then down to 16.55. Now, Ed, what do you think is going to happen? What do you advise? Now, first, if I was to trade this, I'll probably wait a little. Okay, what I want to see here is 15.85, almost 16% accounting is a lot for a drop. And if you're looking at 62.29 all the way to 28.07, you've lost more than, well, around 50% or more than 50% of your investment if you bought at the peak. Now, if you bought from way ago, you might be a little bit greedy if you haven't sold at 62.29, or you might have just thought it might go up a little bit higher, or you might, you have a lot of situations here. But the idea of this one is to sell when you're green. If you want to invest, you want to wait for it to accumulate. Where is it going to accumulate? If I was to guess, I would probably say around the $25 mark. That sounds like a good accumulation part, and I'll probably invest a little and leave it on. Now, one concern I have, well, actually, a couple of concerns I have, is their high negative income. Negative income, I mean that negative loss, right? Their high net loss. And then the second thing here is their cash flow. Their cash flow is terrible. They have a lot of liabilities, not a lot of cash equivalents. And what I'd like to see that they pay off their debt. Now, how often or how fast can I see that happening? Not sure. But in terms of investment, long investment, if you want to invest this one or trade it, wait until it finds support. It looks like it might have found a support at this level, but it was more off, I would say, a bull trap in a sense, or it's not really a bull trap, but it really trapped a lot of people and just threw itself and dove down. What you want to see is something along the line of this accumulation period. That's where you'd be comfortable. What do you think about this ticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like. You have a wonderful day.